Hey Brad. So I thought rather than going through and doing a bunch of screenshots and stuff trying to explain all of this, which would have been really slow and tedious, and then also difficult to understand, I thought I'd just make you a quick little video. So as I said in the message I sent you, there's a number of little problems in here. There's no one individual thing. So first of all, let's make sure that we've got the correct modifier applied to it so we can actually see. And I might just crank that up to 2, just so we can see it a little bit better. So where do we want to start? Okay, well, let's just turn that off for a second. So you can see that we want to get some sharp edges that go all the way around to here. You can see that eventually we want to have some sharp edges in there. You can see that's getting all distorted. There's some weirdness going on through there. There's some pulling and stuff going on up here. Again, there's some pulling and stuff going on there. I'm not going to go through and address absolutely everything in here because it would take far too long. But I'll go over a couple of them, hand it back to you, and then you can hopefully figure out the rest of them. So, to start with, I'm just going to go and hide everything else because this is sort of our main piece that seems to have the majority of the problems. I'm just going to go into edit mode. So first of all, let me just drop back out. These little things here where you can see the faceting, you can probably figure that one out yourself. That just needs to be smooth shaded. Once we do that, well, you can see it's still got some issues there, but it's certainly better than it was. And I mean, the main reason that that's still got problems is because we've got these really big slabs of geometry, which we'll maybe come back to. So where do we want to start? I think possibly starting over around here is a good place, because I think this is some of the more obvious stuff. So just drop back out for a second. Where you've got this strange pinching that's occurring, that's predominantly due to having triangles through here. Hang on a second, let me just up that clipping so we don't get that weirdness happening. Now, on a different model, you might just be able to come in here and dissolve the edges, and as you can see, you'd still end up with 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd still end up with a quad, but in this instance, it doesn't really help. Let's just put that back, and honestly, there's probably not a lot that you can do about that here. This section is kind of going to need to be rebuilt. How exactly is going to be very determined on your own workflow. I did notice, see, when I initially saw this and saw that you've got, if I just drop out, you've got this black piece of geometry here, and then you've got the yellow piece around here. And if you just turn that off for a second, it looked like they were one piece of geometry, and I was going to say, hey, look, it's a common mistake that you've got all these different pieces and you build it, you then build it out of one piece of geometry. You actually haven't. You've been clever, and you've actually got separate pieces of geometry here. But then you've still gone to the effort, despite them being different pieces of geometry, you've gone to the effort of making sure that they had the edges so that they could have been the same geometry. It's not really necessary. So, I mean, I'm just going to experiment here, and this probably won't work. But if I just go and dissolve all of those, yeah, you can see that we just get this even worse pinching. So I'm really not sure the best way to show you how to fix this because it's just going to take far too long. So bear with me, I'm just going to experiment a little bit and see whether something like this doesn't fix it. There you go, look, that's better. You see, it doesn't have the pinching anymore, it still has weirdness in there, which you would ultimately fix by adding some extra edge loops. You can see how that's starting to look right, but of course this doesn't go all the way around. if I just go and do that, where does that go? Oh, that actually does go all the way around. So, I mean, look, this isn't perfect. I'm not recommending that you use this exact solution, but you can see that we've started to fix it. We've got rid of most of the pulling, and the sharp edges that you've got here. Sorry, you can barely see them with this particular colouring, but so the sharp edges that you've got there, they're good. They're a good start, but a lot of the time you do just need to add extra edge loops to really pull that geometry together. In fact, if I just go in there and I dissolve those edges, you can see that even though you've got the sharpness there, there's just not enough geometry to hold it. So if we just go in there and I'll just rebuild that, and rebuild that, and then join those. So again, that's not perfect. You're going to need to do a lot more work around there to really get that to work, but that's the general idea. Now, where was another piece? There was another piece that I saw and went, ooh, that's a nice, easy fix. Here we go. Okay, so up in here, so you can't see it so badly because you've got the grill there, but if you look really closely, you can see that the yellow is actually passing through the grill. So if I just go in here, this is another thing. You've got a whole bunch of materials in here, and you probably don't need all of them. It depends what you're doing at your end. Maybe you're looking to UV this and have different scratch marks or something, but I did just notice that if I go and select the yellow, you've got that, and if I go and select that yellow, you've got all that, and if I select that yellow, you've got that, and I'm just kind of going, couldn't they all be the one yellow? Again, maybe you're UVing this later and you're doing something different, but if I just go and, nope, not that one, see, I want this one. I want this one. Which one is it? You probably know, and you're probably looking at me going, oh, it's that one, hurry up. Anyway, there we go. Okay, so if I go and hide that, and I go in here, you can see that we've got all these stray vertices that are just sitting out there. When you smooth, that's going to really screw things up, as you can kind of see. So let's just grab, kind of similar to what we did down here where we just sort of rebuilt it. I'm just going to quickly rebuild this. Again, this is not going to be perfect. You're going to need to come in here and make proper quads out of most of this. I'm guessing, just looking at this geometry, that this was originally, 4 faces, kind of like it is down here, and you may have used a boolean, perhaps? Or maybe you just cut it out manually. I'm going to assume that you did use a boolean and say that booleans aren't a bad way of just punching geometry in and getting a rough shape, but after you've done a boolean, it leaves you with really, really bad geometry and loose vertices and, kind of what we've got here, which is why I'm assuming it was a boolean. So you have to come in and do some cleanup. So again, and I'm doing a terrible job here. See, it's such a... I'm doing such a bad job here. Don't use exactly this because it's not right. But if I just come in here and even just making these vertices connect with something, you can see that that's smoothed out considerably. Even if I go back into, and I mean, as I say, this is still wrong. You really want to see it's so wrong that it's not even letting me put an edge through there. It dislikes it so much. See, I can kind of force it to if I add the extra vertice and then go and dissolve the vertice. There you go. So that's got it in there. So that's better. But again, that geometry doesn't go anywhere. The vertices just sort of stop. You really need those two kind of... Either this needs to be its own separate piece, as a separate piece, or you need those edge flows to go all the way around and match up on that side. But again, as a quick hack job to show you that you shouldn't have loose vertices, that's hopefully enough to get the point across. And again, similar to what we did down here where we added that extra edge loop going around, you may want to do something similar here, and then of course, get that to then go all the way around and so that you'll end up with an edge loop. Again, I've obviously done a really quick... Sorry, my recording stopped there, but I can quickly pick it up. Yeah, so don't do exactly that. It's wrong, but that's just the general idea. And as you can see, it's already started to clean some stuff up. Let's just drop back down here for a second, unhide those black bits. And this is getting really confusing, so I'm just going to turn that off. And again, you kind of want to have the extra edge loops in here. Like, I know that you've got... No, you probably don't need it there because you've got some going around there. I know you've got the sharpened edge going around there, but again, it's just not quite enough. And I mean, that's still pretty terrible. But again, that's going to be due to... If we just go in here again, you can see there's all these vertices that just don't connect to anything. This is okay for like low poly modeling, although in a game engine this would still break. But if you're going to use a smooth mesh, you have to have these vertices connect to something most of the time. So I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to dissolve those edges. So now we've got no edges, which is, well, it's actually worse in this case. But if I just go inset faces and just inset them slightly and then just inset them, well, I've got to be careful because those ones down the bottom there are overlapping, but if I just go about there, that might be enough geometry. No, it's still not enough geometry. It's still doing nasty stuff. In fact, oh no, see, if you look at that, it's actually a piece on the outside. God, what piece is that? I suspect it's actually this bit. Yeah, hang on, if I just go and turn that back on. No? See, this is the problem. I'm doing this on the fly, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what's wrong. See, it's not that piece, otherwise that would be highlighted. What piece is that? Oh, okay. I can't actually select it. Maybe it is that piece. Maybe it is that piece, and it's got so many loose vertices. Again, you've got these massive faces, where it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then all those ones down there. You know, there's like 20 vertices here that just don't connect to anything. And when you try and smooth that, if it doesn't have quads, the program doesn't know how to smooth it, so it just, you know, does garbage like that. So again, this is you need to end up adding more edge loops, which probably isn't going to work in that case. See, again, this is why I can't really sit here and go through the whole thing, because this will take a few hours to fix up, would be my guess. It would take me a few hours anyway. But ultimately what you want to be doing, again, is similar to what we did over here, where we added these extra edges in, just to hold this geometry in place. You want to do that down here. So you've got that edge there, which is holding it in place, and that's good. You just need all of these to also be holding stuff in place. And again, I'm doing a rushed job here. This is not clean geometry. Make sure everything is in quads and edge loops nicely, and hopefully I'm not talking gibberish. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. And also, hopefully my accent isn't strange. I know the Blender community is vast and wide. Hopefully I'm not confusing too many people, because I do tend to talk fast and I do have an Australian accent. Oh, no, see, that's gone and connected with something in the back. Come on. Yeah, that one. No. Okay, again, that's one of those pieces where the geometry is just, it's really bad, so that the program it can't quite figure out what I'm trying to do, and it's just going, nope, I'm not going to do that. Will that one connect? No, it won't. Ugh, frustrating. Okay, let's see if we can do the same trick, where we drop one out there, and we then... No, come on. We drop one just in the middle there, and then we connect it to there. There we go. Okay, see, that's how you can cheat sometimes. You can just sometimes come in and go, no, stuff here, I don't want to connect it to there, and it'll actually work. And then you can come in here and you can go and dissolve vertices, and it goes, oh, okay, that's what you were trying to do. It's just not quite that clever, and I'll just add an extra one in there so that I can connect that to there. Ugh, see, same problem. Yeah, this is the problem. Having these big, wide faces just doesn't work very well. Dissolve vertices. Okay, so, I mean, this is still going to be ugly, but, okay, as you can see, we're no longer getting that weird face that was dropping over the top of here. Now we're getting weirdness over here, because, oops, because as you can see, now we've got all of these vertices, which don't connect to anything. So again, you're going to have to come through and connect them over here somewhere, which will then presumably mean that you may have to wrap them around this. Depends whether. Hang on. Select the geometry. There we go. Okay, so no, that's a separate piece of geometry. So these would only need to come up to the edge of it, and that would probably be okay. Yeah. In fact, if I just go invert and hide all of that. Yeah, so here we go. So if I just suddenly go, I don't know how many we need, but let's do something like that. And then, you can connect these up over here. And you'll start to see that, I'm not going to bother doing all of them, but you can start to see that, the top half here is now relatively clean. It's still got some nastiness up there. And this end is just still garbled mess. That's because we've got the edge loops in the right place now. Or we've got those ones in the right place, and we don't have any down here. We need them. You'll also have noticed that when I added all of these, and I'm just going to go in and temporarily delete them, this corner up in here, if I go and dissolve those edges, you see how it curves all the way down there? That's the program trying to blend between that vertice and, like, that vertice. And you get this massive curve. But when you come through and add some extra edge loops, it only has to blend between those 2 points, so that becomes much, much smaller. Now, so you've got that sharp going around there. That's a good start. Well, that's actually an outside edge. So, I mean, you can also add a make sharp in there, and I mean, whoops. Oh, goodness me. Come back here. Okay. And I mean, that kind of helps, but it's not enough. Again, this is one of those cases where you just need to, add some extra geometry in there to hold it in place. And as you can see, we've now got a nice, reasonably sharp corner with a little bit of a bevel to it, which is kind of what you want. So again, just needs more edge loops to bring those together. And it's the same sort of thing here. On this piece, where you've got a big curve going all the way around, again, you just need to, come on, get in the right spot. You just need to bring an extra curve in there, and maybe if you want to take it even a step further, add some at the top and bottom. And as you can see, that now matches up pretty much perfectly. In fact, yep, done a good job there. I'm happy. So look, obviously there is still heaps of work to be done on this. You're probably going to want to come in here, and in fact, I'm just going to, here's a little trick, delete that face, go and select that edge loop, and go fill, grid fill. Oh, what? Doesn't want to work. Oh, that's unfortunate. That usually works for me. Okay, so much for showing you that trick. Maybe it's getting upset because of these. Oof. So that's just a little bit nasty. I did that, that's not you. Come on. I don't think this is actually going to work, but if it does work, it's a really cool tool, and I'd like to show it off. It's one of my favourite tools because I don't know of any other program that does this. I'm used to working in Maya, and it doesn't have such a wonderful little fill tool. Sorry, go back to material. No, not material, solid. Come on, grid fill. No. Okay, so much for that. Alright, well, we're just going to have to go back and fill it for now. Huh? Fill. There we go. Okay, cool. See, this has gone and added a whole bunch of triangles. You probably don't want triangles in this case, but ooh, What have I done? I did something, and I don't like it. Oh. I'm in texture paint mode. There we go. So yeah, you can see just adding those edges across there has kind of helped a little bit. So look, that's about all I can do right now. Take what I've shown you with, you know, adding all the extra edges and all of that sort of stuff. Have another crack at it. Like I say, this will take you a few hours to have a go at it. And then, you know, once you've done that, post it back up and we'll have another crack at it. Just gonna... yeah. So you see, sorry, I know I said I was done, but I'm not quite done. So this here, yeah, one vertice having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 edges all going into the same point. Like again, you can get away with that on low poly models, but if I just go and add the subsurf modifier to here, let's just crank it up a little bit. Like, I mean, it's actually done a much better job than I thought it would. Go Blender. But you can see that it's still tearing in strange places and doing weird stuff. So, yeah, you're going to want to come in and fix a few of these pieces. Like, you know, ideally I'd kind of go... What would I do here? Dissolve edges. I'd probably do something more like this. And have all of those go down there. And that's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. So, I mean, technically that's a quad. You could probably get away with that. I don't know whether you'll actually be able to get away with it here. Oh, look at that. You can get away with it. That's not terrible. It's probably not the best geometry, but it's not terrible. You definitely need to fix this up in here. See, triangles are good for, like, game development when, you know, you can't quite make everything quads and you want to stick a triangle in under an armpit or something where you can't see it. But with this where you want to be smoothing it, and it's on a corner in a prominent position, you just can't get away with it. You really have to come in and make all of that work. Yeah, that's something that's just, it's going to take a little bit of time to rebuild. And similar sort of thing up here. Again, this looks like a Boolean job. Again, fine to use Booleans, but you've got to come in and clean it up afterwards. Like, you can just tell that that's going to do weird stuff. It might help if you sort of add some edge loops at the top and bottom. See, I mean, that gives us a nice solid edge on the inside at least. It's still not perfect. You may not be able to see this on this recording, but there's still a little bit of weirdness over here. That's actually done a much better job than I thought it would, but again, you still want to come in and clean all of this up. Alright, that's enough from me. Have another crack at it, because I mean the model itself is really good and really detailed. It just needs the geometry tidied up a little bit. So, good luck, and I hope that was helpful.